The sun is not a celestial body here. It is a weapon. It hangs directly overhead, a blinding white eye at the zenith of the Roman sky, hammering the sand of the Flavian amphitheater until the air itself begins to warp and shimmer. It is high noon. The heat is thick, trapped within the stone bowl of the Colosseum, smelling of sweat, stale wine, and the copper tang of old blood. The 50,000 spectators in the stands have not gone home. The morning beast hunts are finished, and the main event, the heavy gladiatorial combat, is hours away. But the crowd remains. They lounge on the stone benches, fanning themselves, chewing on salted bread and passing wineskins. They are bored. They are waiting for the meridiani, the midday executions. This is a time of day reserved for the disposal of the unwanted, the arsonists, the traitors, and the refuse of the empire. Down on the burning floor, a single gate rattles open. The sound echoes off the marble, sharp and lonely. Out of the darkness stumbles a woman. The registry lists her name as Dirce. It is likely a stage name, a cruel joke given to her by her owners. Just days ago, she was a warrior, a Lydia. She was a celebrated curiosity who could drive a sword through a wooden post with terrifying precision, her muscles honed by years of grueling discipline. She was an investment. Now she is meat. She is naked. Every piece of armor that once defined her value, the golden greaves, the leather manic on her arm, the heavy belt, has been stripped away. There is no helmet to hide her terror. This is the first and most brutal violation. The exposure. Her face, unhelmeted and raw, is offered up to 50,000 pairs of eyes. They scrutinize her fear. They look for the tremble in her lip, the panic in her gaze. She is not tied to a simple wooden stake. In a display of the grotesque theatricality the Romans loved so dearly, she is being bound with rough, biting ropes to the horns of a massive, agitated bull. The crowd chuckles. They recognize the scene. It is a reenactment of the myth of Dirce, the queen tied to a bull by the sons of Antiope. The mob loves to see their mythology brought to life, even if it requires tearing a living human being apart to do it. This is not combat. There is no sword in her hand. There is no chance for defense. Dirce looks up, squinting against the blinding sun. We can see the confusion warring with the terror in her eyes. She knows the geometry of this arena intimately. She knows the texture of the sand under her bare feet. She knows the acoustics of the screams. But the rules have changed. She was a gladiator. Now she is a criminal. The bull jerks its massive head, testing the weight attached to its horns. The heavy, wet thud of hooves on sand vibrates through the ground. Dirce takes a breath, sharp, ragged, sucking in the hot air, and then the animal charges. The roar of the crowd rises like a rogue wave, drowning out the sickening crack of bone. It is a sound like the ocean breaking against a cliff, swallowing her final, silent scream. This gruesome spectacle, this theater of cruelty, is not merely a punishment for a crime. It is a receipt for a transaction. It is the price paid for a single moment of hesitation. The road to this specific hell began with a promise of glory and a lie about what it meant to be strong. If you are drawn to the history that is written in the margins, the stories of those they tried to erase, bury, and forget, consider subscribing to the channel. There are many more ghosts waiting to speak, and we are here to give them a voice. To understand how a warrior ends up bound to a beast, we must leave the blinding sun of the arena and descend into the dark. We must go down into the damp earth of the first century. Rome at street level is a chaotic assault on the senses. It smells of unwashed bodies, exotic spices, wood smoke, and the sweet, cloying scent of rot from the open sewers. But beneath the city's streets, in the subterranean tunnels of the Ludus, the gladiator school, the air changes. It becomes thick with the smell of liniment, old leather, and fear. Forget the polished, leather-clad fantasy heroines of Hollywood. Erase the image of the supermodel with a sword. The women here, the gladiatrices, are built for survival, not for the male gaze of a modern camera. They are thick-muscled, scarred, and covered in layers of protective fat, earned through a diet of barley gruel and ash. They call them horderii, barley women. They live in cramped stone cells, sleeping on straw that is changed only when the lights become unbearable. Who are they? They are a motley collection of the desperate and the delirious. Some are slaves, sold by masters who found them too unruly, too aggressive, or too strong for domestic work. For a master, a violent female slave is a liability. For a lanista, she is raw material. Others are debtors, women who have signed away their bodies and their legal rights to pay off a loan that was crushing their families. And a rare few, the ones that historians struggle to explain, are high-born citizens. These are the daughters of senators and knights, thrill-seekers bored with the suffocating constraints of Roman patriarchy, seeking the only place in the empire where a woman is permitted to bleed for herself. Day in and day out, the sound of the ludus is a dull, rhythmic thud of heavy wooden swords against wooden posts. Thud, thud, thud. It is the heartbeat of the school. The lanista, their trainer and owner, paces behind them. He carries a cane of vine wood, and he uses it freely. He watches them not with pride, but with the cold calculation of a merchant inspecting livestock. He looks for speed. He looks for obedience. They are trained to kill, certainly. They learn the thrust, the parry, the feint, but primarily they are trained to die well. They are taught to offer their throats to the blade without flinching. They are taught the geometry of the good death. And here is where the central tragedy begins. Unlike the men, who often fight behind the anonymity of heavy iron visors or enclosed helmets, these women train with their faces bare. They practice keeping their expression stoic while taking a blow to the jaw. They learn to mask pain with a frozen mask of indifference. The lanista insists on it. Why? Because the crowd needs to see. They are preparing for a performance where the script is written in blood, and their unhelmeted faces are the primary prop. They must be recognized as women, or the novelty is lost. They must be beautiful and terrifying all at once. But the wooden swords and the silent cells cannot prepare them for the noise that is coming. For the Roman populace, the female gladiator is not a hero. She is not a symbol of feminist power. She is a novelty, a fetish. To the average Roman man, the very existence of a woman in the arena is a titillating subversion of nature. It is a carnival mirror reflection of Roman virtue. Women are supposed to be the keepers of the hearth, the silent weavers of wool. To see one covered in dust, holding a gladius, creates a friction in their minds, a mix of disgust and dark arousal. Emperors like Nero and Domitian understand this dark hunger well. They are masters of the spectacle. Domitian, in particular, has a taste of the bizarre. He commissions these fights not at noon, but by torchlight. Imagine the scene. The sun has set. The Colosseum is lit by thousands of oil lamps and torches, casting long, jagged shadows across the sand. The air is cooler, but the atmosphere is feverish. Hydraulic organs hiss and groan, pumping out a low, vibrating drone. Flutes pipe a high, eerie melody. The gates open and the women enter. They are dressed in shining gold greaves that catch the torchlight. They wear intricate belts and arm guards, but their chests are often bare or bound tightly with leather fascia, and their faces always are uncovered. The crowd's reaction is a confusing, volatile cocktail. There are wolf whistles. There are jeers. There is a hush of voyeurism. The crowd leans forward. They must see that they are women. That is the point. These women are technically proficient. They fight with a sword and shield, mirroring the style of the male provocators. They understand range, leverage, and timing. They are professionals. But the context strips them of dignity. Often, to heighten the absurdity, the emperor pits them against dwarves. Or he stages mock battles where they fight with blunt weapons before the real steel is brought out. It is a comedy act before the tragedy. The women fight for survival, driving their heels into the sand, sweating, bleeding, believing that their skill commands respect. They believe that if they fight hard enough, the crowd will see them as warriors. They are wrong. They forget that to the mob, and to the emperor watching from his velvet-draped box, they are just expensive toys. And toys are meant to be broken. The chains that bind them are not just made of iron. They are made of words. The psychological turning point happens long before the first fight. It happens during the Sacramentum Gladiatorium, the solemn oath that binds a fighter to the school. We witness the ritual in the courtyard of the ludus. The women stand in a line. The air is heavy with the smoke of burning incense, stinging their eyes. A priest mumbles a prayer to Mars or Nemesis. The lanista stand before them, holding the contract. They repeat the words. These are the words that legally strip them of their humanity, turning them from persons into things. Uri Vinsairai Verbereri, Feroke Nekari. I promise to endure to be burned, to be bound, to be beaten, and to be killed by the sword. It is a total surrender of bodily autonomy. In the eyes of Roman law, once these words are spoken, they are infamous, socially dead. They have no rights. They cannot testify in court. They cannot make a will. They belong to the Lanista. We focus on the face of our protagonist here. Let's call her Achillea, a name found carved in a stone relief, the only memory we have of her. Her face is unmarred for now. Her eyes are hard, focused. She believed this oath is a contract, a fair trade. She thinks, I give the Lanista a good show. I bring in the coin, and in exchange, I get to live. I get to eat meat. I get medical care better than a senator's wife. Perhaps, if I am good enough, I win my freedom. She cleans her weapon, a sharp gladius, checking the edge of the thumb that has grown callous from a hilt. She tests the weight of it. She trusts the steel more than she trusts the men who own her. The system relies entirely on this transaction. The Lanista nods, satisfied, as she takes the oath. He has invested thousands of sesterces in her training. He has paid for her food, her massages, her doctor. He expects a return on that investment. And in the arena, the only receipt that matters is the finishing blow. He needs her to kill because killing sells tickets. But in the heat of the sand, contracts dissolve. The day of the fight arrives. The atmosphere is electric. The roar of the Colosseum is a physical force. It vibrates in the teeth. It rattles the bones in the chest. It is a sensory assault that disorients the soul. Two female gladiators, Amazon and Achillea, rush toward each other from opposite ends of the arena. This is not a comedy act tonight. This is the main event of the evening. It is a grueling 20-minute bout of high-stakes endurance. The torches flicker, casting shadows that seem to fight along with them. Dust coats their sweat-drenched skin, mixing with the oil, turning them into statues of living clay. The clash of steel on shields rings out. Clang, 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 sharp and desperate. They circle. They strike. They bleed. Cuts open on their arms, bright red against the gold armor. Their lungs burn. Every movement is heavy, as if moving through water. The crowd is screaming, a constant wall of noise, demanding a conclusion. They want to see the light go out in someone's eyes. Finally, a misstep. Fatigue sets in. Amazon faints low, then strikes high with the rim of her shield. Achillea stumbles. The shield is kicked away. The sword spins into the dust. The victor stands over the fallen. Her chest is heaving. Her heart is hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She holds her sword point inches from the exposed throat of her opponent. The crowd screams for blood. They make the gesture, the thumb turned, the pollice verso, the demand for death. Kill her. Jugular. Slit her throat. But the rhythm is off. The victor looks down. She looks at the fallen woman's exposed face, the unhelmeted face. This is a face she has eaten with in the mess hall, a face she has slept near in the barracks, listening to her nightmares, a face she has trained with for years, binding each other's wounds. In the sweat and dirt, she does not see an enemy. She sees a mirror of herself. She looks up to the emperor's box. Then she looks at the baying crowd, the thousands of distorted faces screaming for murder. And she stops. She lowers her sword, not in defeat, but in a pause. She steps back, creating a space of mercy in a place designed for murder. She refuses to deliver the coup de grace. She stands side by side with her opponent, silently pleading for a missio, a discharge for both of them. She is saying, we have fought well. We are still alive. Is that not enough? Silence falls over the arena. It is heavier than the noise. It is a dangerous silence. The crowd does not see mercy. They see theft. They paid for death. They paid for the finality of the kill. By denying them that moment, the gladiator has stolen from them. The mood shifts instantly from excitement to toxic aggression. The cheers turn to hisses and boos. The Lanista in the wings is furious. He is pacing, shouting at his guards. A refused kill makes the games look weak. Weak games cause riots. A riot can topple a governor. Mercy is bad for business. He looks at the emperor's box, terrified of the repercussions. The emperor signals. but it is not the reprieve they hope for. He waves his hand dismissively. The crowd begins to chant a low, ugly rumble calling for the coward to be punished. The refusal to kill is interpreted as a violation of the sacramentum. She promised to be killed by the sword, but she also implicitly promised to use it. By showing humanity, the gladiator has broken the machine. Guards enter the sands. These are not the referees. They are heavy infantry. They do not come to congratulate the fighters on a draw. They seize the one who refused to strike. Rough hands strip her sword away. Her armor, the gold greaves, the leather chest piece, is unbuckled piece by piece in the center of the arena. She is peeled like fruit. The unhelmeted face, once a badge of her gender and her courage, is now a mask of dawning realization. She looks around, wild-eyed, searching for an ally. There is none. The protection of the ludus evaporates. She is no longer a gladiator. She is something less. She is a broken tool. The transition from warrior to victim is brutal and swift. The mercy shown by the fighter is repaid with the justice of the arena. She is dragged to the holding cells, the spoliarium. This is usually where the dead bodies are dragged to be stripped of their gear. The room smells of copper and bowels. But she is alive, breathing hard, the adrenaline turning sour and cold in her veins. The lanista is there. He does not look at her. He is looking at his ledger. He writes off the loss. She is recategorized. She is no longer gladiatrix. She is Noxiae, a condemned criminal. He sells her to the bestiarius, the beastmaster, for a fraction of her training cost. It is a salvage operation. He needs to recoup something from this disaster. We return to the imagery of the beginning, but now we understand the weight of it. We are back in the blinding light of the arena. There is no dignity here. She is pushed back out onto the burning sand. Perhaps as a cruel joke, they give her a wooden sword, a rudis, a mockery of her former profession. Or perhaps she has nothing at all. The gates rattle open with the sound of heavy iron chains. The darkness of the tunnel breathes out a scent of musk and rot. A leopard or a bear, starved for days to ensure aggression, emerges from the darkness. It blinks in the light, confused, angry. The scene emphasizes a terrifying isolation of the human figure in the vastness of the stone bowl. She is so small against the high walls. She raises a hand, not to fight. She knows she cannot win against a bear with her bare hands. She raises a hand to shield her eyes from the sun. The crowd leans in. They stop eating. They stop talking. They want to see the fear on her face. They want to see the moment the light goes out. The end is messy. It is quick, and it is entirely devoid of glory. The years pass. The sand drinks the blood, and new sand is laid down. By the year 200 AD, the spectacle had run its course. Emperor Septimius Severus issued a decree banning female combat in the arena. History often frames this as a moment of moral awakening. Historians like to say that Rome returned to civility, but the truth, as always, is far more cynical. The ban was not issued because the emperors suddenly developed a conscience. It was issued because elite Roman women, the wives and daughters of senators, were beginning to join the games in greater numbers. They were cutting their hair short, wearing tunics, and training with swords. This threatened the rigid class structure of the empire. It blurred the lines between slave and citizen, between man and woman. It was about order, not kindness. And the ban did not liberate the women currently enslaved in the ludus. It condemned them. Imagine the scene in the barracks on the day the decree arrived. The lanista reads the scroll. He looks at his stable of female fighters. They are no longer allowed to fight for their keep. They are no longer revenue generators. They are just mouths to feed. They become liquidated assets. We see the dismantling of the female barracks. The training equipment is thrown into bonfires. The floors are scrubbed of sweat and blood. The women, stripped of their purpose, are sold off. Some are sent to the brothels that ring the stadium, forced into a different kind of slavery. Others are shipped to the salt mines to work in the dark until they drop. Some, the older ones who cannot work or please men, are simply executed to clear the books. The unhelmeted face of the warrior is replaced by the veil of the anonymous slave. They disappear from the record. Their skills, the years of discipline, the mastery of the sword, are rendered useless in a world that only valued them for their spectacle. The arena moves on. It is hungry for new blood. It forgets they ever existed. Today, if you visit the British Museum, you might walk past a marble relief from Halicarnassus without looking twice. It is a slab of stone, unassuming, sitting in a quiet gallery. But if you look closely, you will see them. It depicts two women dressed as gladiators fighting with swords and shields. They are frozen in a moment of perfect tension. Carved beneath their feet are their names, Amazon and Achillea. And beneath their names, a single word, Missii. It means granted release. It means they fought to a draw and were allowed to leave the arena alive. Standing, it is a beautiful image. It is a testament to their skill, but it is also a lie. Or, at the very least, it is a rare exception that proves the terrible rule. The cold, clean stone freezes them in a moment of equality, of heroic struggle. It does not show what happened after the applause died down. It does not show the executions, the brothels, or the beasts. It does not show the fear. History remembers the spectacle. It loves the image of the warrior woman, but it erases the suffering. The stone is silent. It keeps the secrets of the women who refused to kill and the women who died because they dared to be human. We think we know them, but we only know the caricature carved by the men who own them. The sun sets on the Flavian amphitheater. The heat finally breaks. The crowds are gone, their cheers fading into centuries of silence. The camera moves low over the empty arena floor. The wind blows across the grit, shifting the dust of empires. Half buried in the sand, there's a small object. It is not a sword. It is not a helmet. It is a simple, unadorned wooden hairpin. It is a small thing, a fragile thing. It is not a weapon of war. It is a human thing, a small piece of vanity, or perhaps a token of a life before the chains, a reminder of a mother or a sister. It implies that beneath the armor, beneath the myth, and beneath the brutal expectations of the mob, there was a person who breathed and feared and made a choice to be human in an inhuman place. The wind picks up. It blows a fresh layer of sand over the pin. It buries it completely. The screen fades to black. If you want more stories the world tried to bury, hit subscribe. And tell me in the comments, when the crowd demanded blood, would you have lowered your sword? I'll see you in the next one.